Hello and welcome to Minukuu tutorials. In today's tutorial, I'm going to share with you how to calculate mean for a single selected row, or if you want, how to calculate means for several rows in R or RStudio, and better still, how we can also calculate means for selected rows with respect to selected columns. So we will also end up with how to resolve problems, let's say NA problems, that's missing data problems involving calculation of mean. Okay, so to start, I have a data set right here that we would have already saved it on the desktop in the form of a CSV file that we will read into R. So this is simply a collection of TV sets. Okay, and so we have in all 29 TVs, and each of them has its color, whether black or white, and also the electric power, the size or the screen size, and then client satisfaction. Okay, so we might be interested in calculating the mean for a particular row and we don't know how. Either or, we might be interested in calculating the mean for multiple rows. For instance, we want R to calculate, let's say, the mean for row number 3 to row number 8, or just only row number 3 and 8, for instance, or just a collection of rows. Okay, but we don't know how. So the purpose of this video is for this. I will show you how, and how we could also do this. For instance, how do we calculate the mean for subject number 5 for just his, or let's say subject number 5 is TV number 5 for just, let's say, electric power and then screen size. That would be, let's say, value for electric power plus value for screen size divided by 2, or so there are a couple of things that we can do. So let's start. First of all, let's read our data set into R. Like I said, I have it already on the desktop in the form of a CSV file, so I'll just read it into R for us to start the calculations. So after reading this into R, this is done. And now let's print our data set to see what it contains. So I'll say print to brackets data here, and let's see what it contains. Okay, so we have, I said, let's see what it contains. I've forgotten that I've actually shown you the data, but this is our data set imported right here, as you can see, for the 29 TVs. And like I said, let's assume we are interested in calculating. First of all, we'll start with calculation of mean, or let's say means. Let me put S. Okay, that's, or averages for all rows. Okay, now bear in mind that if you are going to calculate mean for all rows, it means all your data must contain numeric entities, or if you want numeric values. If your data contains, let's say, alphabets, or let's say non-numeric values, in other words, nominal values, then there's no way it doesn't make sense calculating the mean for, let's say, boy, or let's say, it wouldn't work. You cannot say boy plus girl is divided by 2. That would be equal to boy plus girl divided by 2 mathematically. That's in. So R would just give you an error, you see. So basically, since all our data set, let's say over here, it wouldn't also make sense, for instance, saying, okay, TV here simply stands for it's a number, all right. It's to say TV number 1, TV number 2, TV number 3 in that order. But is there any sense in, or let's say, is it really necessary adding TV number 1? Let's say it doesn't really, in real life, it might not be interesting doing such a thing, but we could, since they are numeric values, we might be interested in calculating the mean for each row regardless, since they are just numeric values. Okay, so we would just say, for instance, if we pick TV number 1, then we're going to take the TV number, we would add it to the color number, we would add it to the power, electric power number or whatever capacity, then we add it to the client satisfaction and divide everything by 4, or is it 5? You see, so we could do something like that for all the subjects. And to do this, let's see, all you have to do is to say row means. Okay, so you say row means row, and then means with capital M, means into brackets, then you write the name of the object that contains of your that represents your data frame. In our case is data with capital D. So if I should run this, let's see what happens. It will actually calculate the mean for all the 29 subjects. So that's what it has done. So it will pick TV number 1. It's going to calculate, it's going to sum everything that is for TV number 1. So it would say 1 plus 1 plus this plus that in that order, divided by 5. It does the same thing for TV number 2, 2 plus 2 plus this plus that, divided by 5 in that order. That's what it has done. But now let's move to the second part, which has to do with, let's say, calculating means for a single row or selection of rows. Okay, so let's assume we just want to calculate the mean for a single row, let's say TV number 3. To do that, all that you have to do is to use your square bracket to select the particular row of your choice. So we would say row names as usual. I say row names. Row means, okay, and now into brackets we use the square brackets to say we are going to select subject number 3. So remember, when you are selecting before that you have to write the object that contains your data frame or that represents your data frame. So we would say data here, and then I'll use the square bracket to now select the row in question. So we want row number 3. Then remember, everything that comes before the comma is to select a row or represents a row. Everything after the column represents what? A column. So if I just put comma, and now you come before the comma, I want to select a row, and that's row number 3. So I just put row number 3, and it's going to calculate the average for all the values for row number 3. See that it has done that. If you want, you can verify in Excel. Let's assume we want to calculate for row number 3, which is the TV number 3, which is right here. If we want to calculate the average, we simply have to say equal to, then we say average, or that's for mean, and then I'll simply select all these values here, and then I'll close the brackets and hit enter. It's 21618.6. That's exact. Sorry, 21. I think I've made a mistake or something. For subject number 3, I think I made a mistake. Sorry for that. In either case, it wasn't necessary doing all these calculations on Excel because we are doing everything. The aim is not to show you how it's done on Excel anyway. But average, I think I made a mistake. I didn't select average actually. This average here, okay. I didn't actually select average. So okay, so it's 13517.6, and that's exactly what we got. All right, now let's assume this is just for calculating mean for a single row, but now let's say we want to calculate for a group of rows, or if you want a selection of rows. Then to do that, we simply say row names again. I always say row names, row means, and this time around we would say data, and then we will select our data by using the square brackets. And now let's assume we want to do it for row number 5 and 3. So we simply use the concatenation C to concatenate, and now open brackets and say we want to select row number 3 and row number 5, and then after the bracket I will put comma to say I'm not going to select any column, but I just want to select only these rows, row number 3 and 5. And I want to calculate the means for these particular rows, row number 3 and 5. So it's going to do the same for all the variables. And that's exactly what it has done. So it will calculate, it will sum everything divided by 5 for row number 3, everything divided by 5 for row number 5. Now let's assume we want to say from row number 5 3 to row number 10. It's just the same principle. You say row names into brackets, then we say data, we use square bracket to select, and now we would say 3, you put column to, let's say 3 to 9 for instance, then you put comma. So what we are telling R to do is that you should calculate the mean for row number 3 to row number 9, and it will do the same thing perfectly. Sorry, it's telling me an error. Sorry, I said row means. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I have row names in my math today. Row means. So sorry. I'm so sorry for that. And as you can see, it has just done that for us. Now let's move on to the third part, which has to do with, let's say, calculating row means for selected columns. It's the same procedure. If you know how to select columns, it's the same thing that we're going to apply. So let's say calculating, third has to do with calculating means here. Let's say for selected columns. Okay, so now sometimes we might not want to do it for all the columns. Like I told you, if we look at our data here, it doesn't really make sense saying you want to know the average of all the values of the particular subject, even taking into consideration the subject number, just this numeric order 1 or 2. What is the need? Or the color, which is categorical. Red. Imagine if we had written black or white instead of 2 and 1. So it's not really necessary. These are just it's not necessary. So we might just be interested in finding maybe the average of electric power and screen size for a particular subject, or for a group of subjects, if one for all the subjects. You understand? So in that case, we might be interested in just finding the average for these two variables for each line, for each row. So for instance, for row number 4, we want to calculate the average of what? Electric power and screen size. So TV number 4, we're going to simply take its value for electric power plus its value for screen size divided by 2, and that's the average. So to do this, it's also very simple. So let's pick this particular person, TV number 4. We want to take this value plus this value divided by 2. To do that is very, very simple. All we have to do is, as usual, you say row means. Okay, you open brackets, then you write data, and after which you use the square brackets to select the, the particular columns of your interest. So remember, when we wanted to select rows, I told you that everything that comes before the comma within the square bracket represents a row or a group of rows. Anything after the column represents what? A column, selection of a column. So we're going to put comma here, and let's assume we want to do it for column number 3 and 4. So we say 3, so we have to concatenate actually. So we say 3, then we concatenate 3 and 4. 3, comma 4. So it's going to actually calculate for all the 29 subjects the average of what? Column number 3 and 4. Column number 3 represents the screen, the electric power, and then column number 3 represents the screen size. So the average of electric power value and screen size for all the 29 subjects. That's what we are doing here. So see, it has done that for us. Now if I want to do it otherwise, if I wanted to I don't know what else can we do here. That's just all basically, but we could choose it, just like we were doing. We could say, okay, do it for, let's say, column number 2 to 5. Then you could do it still the same principle. Row means into brackets, then we write data, then we use the square bracket to select what are we gonna select. We put comma here, then I'll concatenate what. No, there's no need concatenating, since I want to say from 3 to 5 inclusive. I don't need to concatenate. Then I'll just say 3 column 5. So it's gonna do it. It's gonna calculate the mean. Sorry, column, not semicolon. So it's going to calculate the mean for each subject, for all the 29 subjects, for just the what should I say, from the third column, which is the, what's the third column actually? That's the electric power, to the last column, which is what, client satisfaction. So we're going to add all these scores and divide by, in this case, 3. So let's do it. And you see that it has done that one too. So basically, but now another question that you may want to ask me is, how do we do it for, let's say, selected rows and selected columns? So let's assume we want to do this, but for just the first 3 rows, or just for row number, I don't know, whichever, you know. So it's also pretty much simple. It's the same thing, but now we're going to select rows and columns at the same time. So say, for instance, row means, and then I'll write data. Now I'll use my square bracket to select the given rows and columns. So this time around, since we are going to select some rows, so we would say, for let's do it for row number 4. Okay, then I write comma. Now say, okay, do it for, let's say, column number 3 and 5. So say I'll concatenate 3 and 5, comma 5. So what we are simply telling R to do is that calculate the row means for TV number, what's the TV number? TV number 4. TV number 4 for column number 3 and 5. So that is for, take the electric power score plus the client satisfaction and divide it by 2. That's what we are telling R. And it should do it for only client, sorry, I said client, TV number 4. So we only have one response. That's exactly what it has done. Let us say we could do it for several subjects. For instance, let's just repeat this. Sorry, let me copy and paste so that I will not waste time repeating the same thing. So for example, we could do it for subject number 4 and 6, for instance. So we concatenate 4 and 6, comma 6, you know. So it will do it for 4 and 6 in that order. So we can manipulate it as much as we want. Now let's hold it on here and move to the last part, which has to do with I think I made it. It's like I mixed everything up. This was for calculating mean for selected columns. Okay, the first was what? The first was calculate means for overall or all rows. Second was calculating for single or selection of rows. Okay, and this actually the third. I didn't write third. Okay, which has to do for selected columns, and the fourth has to do with, I think there's no need, this is a repetition. So the fourth has to do with calculating problem of NAs, and the problem of NAs like I just wanted to remind you how we can take care of NAs when we are calculating mean. When we look at our data set right here, there's no any missing value. However, I could just introduce a missing value to show you an example. So let's print our data once again. Print to brackets data. So you see that within our data set, like I told you, there's no any missing value. But let's intentionally replace the electric power for subject number 4 by NA. So to do that, what do? I will simply say data, then I will use square bracket to select subject number 4, and then we are subject number 4, we put comma, and then which column are we selecting? So subject number 4, column number 3, which is what? Electric power. So it corresponds to this value that we want to replace by NA. So just say number 3, column number 3, and I'll say equal to or less than and dash, and I'll say NA, for instance. So if I should run this down now, if I should print our data again, let's print our data. Now if you check, electric power for subject number 4 has been replaced by NA. Good. Now let's assume we want to calculate the mean for row number 4 again, or let's say TV4. So we would say what? Row means, okay, and then I would say data, then I'll use a square bracket once again to select subject number 4. Bear in mind that it's going to give me an error. Why? Simply because now we have a missing value and it cannot calculate the mean. So if I should, you see it has given us NA. So to avoid this, we could instruct R to ignore all missing values. So what it's actually going to do is that it would calculate the mean for subject number 4, ignoring the value for electric power. So how do we do that? To do that, we simply write comma, then we say remove. Here we say remove rm.na. No, it's rather na.remove. na.remove is equal to, let's say, true. So basically it's gonna ignore missing value, and you see that it has calculated it to be 6.25. okay, am I sure? Yeah, that's correct. It's because 6.25, it looks ridiculous, but it's very, very right. So this is the subject number 4, and it's actually we intentionally introduced this one an NA. So, and we asked it to ignore NA. So what it did was that it simply took no, this was this subject. Okay, sorry for that. Let me come back. This NA here. Okay, so it actually took 617. So we can do the math here, equal to, let's say, average, and then we will say this right here. So it's 4 plus 2 plus 17. You press Control to select the different cells, or Control as we select the different cells. So now we're going to ignore NA. Let's close and divide by, so we have 6.25, and that's exactly what we got. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe.